Hey guys, Natalie from Redacted pinged me again yesterday and I went on the show. So they did a great special on some really late breaking news, and then they did a feature at the end, 20 minutes I'll feature here. And we go through Ireland, mass migration, who's driving it, what's going on, and all the latest developments. So it is Ireland, but it is utterly appropriate and very relevant for the whole world, the Western world. So here you go, guys.
The Protestant Catholic divide in Ireland is one of the world's oldest and ongoing conflicts tied to, of course, religious and political identity. But those groups may be coming together to protest a common cause in Ireland, which is mass migration. Next month, these two groups are set to demonstrate side by side.
Sunday, the 23rd of March, 1 p.m, Belfast City Hall or the Guildhall, Derry. Come and show your opposition towards this mass illegal, unvetted immigration that is being pushed on our people. It's causing harm to our men, women and children. And we're not going to take it anymore. We want to show that we do not want this happening any longer. Come along, bring your flags. Bring your banners with stats and stories of what's happening all around Ireland, north and south. And let's show them we're not going to take this anymore. It goes without saying, this is a peaceful gathering, so come along and show your support on the day. With both communities unifying and coming together, that's a strength like no other. So let's do this, Northern Ireland. Let's stand together like the brothers and sisters that we are. We aren't so different after all, like they always wanted us to believe. Our strength is our unity. See us on the day.
Ireland has indeed been flooded with migrants. Now, 22% of their population is made up of non-citizens. Ivor Cummings joins us from Ireland. He has been warning about leftist policies in Ireland for years and how mass migration is tearing apart the fabric of society. He joins us to discuss. Good to see you, Ivor Cummings. Thanks for coming back on Redacted.
Great to see you again, Natalie.
So, okay, what do you think of this? Is this actually a unifying cause between these groups? What is the current state of mass migration in Ireland?
Well, the whole situation is pretty nuts. I mean, it really accelerated after Ukraine war in 22. And I think I mentioned on the show before that our Minister for Children and Migration, I believe at the time, sent out a tweet in Ukrainian saying, Ireland's open for business, come on over. Which was understandable with the war going on, very unfortunate. But he also, his department sent out around 7 or 8 other tweets the same day in languages including East African and Georgian, I believe. So it was under the cover of Ukraine. But ultimately, it's the UN agenda, and that goes back to Rockefeller Foundation. And we know in 2015, I think, Soros came out with 500 million, and he basically told the EU, you're going to have to flood the zone. Million per year minimum, and he wanted them to set up 12,000 sterling, I believe, per year for each immigrant. And we also had Peter Sutherland, an Irish person, sadly, and he was head of Goldman Sachs, and then he moved straight into the UN head of migration. And he began to, in the 2008-2009 period, lobby the UK government and lobby all over the place to get mass migration. He even made a comment in a British inquiry into this. He made a comment that you're focusing on bringing in skilled migrants. You're going to have to drop that. You're just going to have to effectively flood the zone. So we know where it comes from. But this Irish lady, in Northern Ireland, the Catholics, Protestants have been against each other, I guess, particularly in the 60s and 70s and 80s, the Troubles period in Northern Ireland. There were bombs and pitched battles in the streets. Very difficult time. But now it's largely settled, but it's great to see this lady. 23rd of March, it looks like. They're going to bring together the Protestants and the Catholics, the kind of traditional enemies, if you will, into a big event in Northern Ireland. And interestingly, last point, Natalie, I had a memory of something happening last summer, and sure enough, last August, Catholics and Protestants did a big rally in Northern Ireland. So it's already actually happened, whatever about happens on the 23rd of March.
And so explain what the common cause is that they're saying, look, our society needs to be recognizable to those of us who are Irish. And if you're going to break the laws down, There are laws to migrate legally to Ireland. Shouldn't we all have a say?
Well, this is exactly it because, I mean, when I was young, there were the Vietnamese boat people, and the numbers were manageable. They came from the Vietnam War, and everyone embraced them. They came, they worked hard, they set up restaurants. They were your classic migrants, like going to America or in England in the 50s, 60s, 70s. You had lots of Indian and other people went to the UK and they set up little shops and stores all over the place, really industrious, working two jobs. That's classical migration. It's got a level kind of cadence, it's manageable numbers, and the people come and work really hard. That's the classic everyone was used to. But what they've done now in the last few years, based on Sutherland, Soros, the UN, and this kind of agenda, they're ramming it down everyone's throats. So they're flooding the zone. Ireland already had a housing problem. We've got a homeless problem. And they're just pumping in incredible numbers. And what they're doing, Natalie, is they're setting up IPAS centres, so large industrial kind of like a permanent tent city all over Ireland. And it's quite secretive. And then there's the public side. They're buying up hotels and people are making a fortune. Local kind of schleveens, as we would say, businessmen are making an absolute fortune from our taxes for converting hotels, nursing homes and other buildings. They put in a new planning law that buildings not normally for habitation, they've put in an exemption for mass migration. So our politicians are flooding the zone just with no qualms whatsoever. And luckily, the people are beginning to realize this isn't immigration. This isn't what we always had for a century that was healthy and people integrated. This is flooding in very different people who will not integrate, who will ghettoize, and who will ultimately undermine the fabric, societal fabric of our countries. It's not racism to say that. It's not far right. This is basic common sense.
But it's almost like the history of Ireland has been erased and you're being treated like a colonial power. Like, come on, white people, just, stop feeling this way about others. But Ireland was never a colonial power. Do people forget that?
No, and it's often said, but the Irish migrated all over the world, and they did. And when they got there, they worked bloody hard, Police, I think, firemen and building were the classics. But the migration was very controlled into America and into the UK. The paperwork was largely done. And they completely integrated, like the Indians. I know many Indians in the UK, and their elderly parents now are shocked at what's happening. And they came to the UK and they put their kids in schools and they wanted them to become British, like British Indian, but totally British. But what we're seeing now is very, very different. So this is clearly an agenda and the people are beginning to wise up. One positive sign is the media that were screeching far right and racist to anyone who wondered what the hell was going on, quite rightly, that media has quietened down now. They're not using the racist and far right terms. And I'd say it's because even the journalists themselves are getting heat from their brothers, sisters, or relations asking them what the hell is going on. So
Right.
Lots of people want to know what's going on.
Now, obviously, when you have groups that are not used to living together and they're suddenly thrown together, it's natural. It's not racist to say that would lead to crime. Ireland has typically had a low crime rate, but it is rising. Can you talk to us about how that actually plays out in Irish society right now?
Well, it's increasing. I wouldn't say it's off the wall so much, but remember, we're early on in this insane globalist plan. But there have been multiple incidents with stabbings and sadly kind of rape events, and they're increasing. Now, Sweden, I saw an article, it was actually in Mainstream, I believe, I think it was last week, that it's gone from being one of the lowest crime countries in Europe to being basically almost the rape capital of Europe. Now,
Yes.
they do define rape in a more lenient way than other countries. But still, Sweden has bombs going off, massive crime. Sweden's under assault. But remember, in 2015, Soros and the guys targeted Sweden with NGOs. There's lots of powerful NGOs paid by tax dollars to ram countries full of usually African, Syrian, and Far Eastern migrants. And now Sweden is reaping the benefits, if you will. So they're not
Yes.
integrating. That's the key. And Ireland is on its way there, absolutely. And England, we saw last summer, horrific scenes going on. Because I always say it's not, people should never have any judgment of the migrants. The migrants are only pawns. If you think about it, the ultimate racists on our planet are Soros and the UN people ramming countries full of migrants and causing social issues and violence and problems. They're the ultimate racists because they're literally force feeding people, using them as pawns for a globalist agenda and objective. So they're the racists. So we should never be harsh on the actual migrants because they are being moved by NGOs, told they're going to get a new life. And you can't blame them for getting on the
Right.
boat and getting on the train. The
And
problem is the
often
people
lied
driving.
to as well. They're sold a bill of goods that once you get here, you're guaranteed asylum. That is not the case. They have to jump through hoops to prove who was chasing them or what have you. They do get, a means of subsistence, but they don't get gainful employment. It's not the, paradise that a lot of them are promised. And so idle hands, what is the saying? Idle hands do the devil's work. So then we see that's what's happening
Devil
with these
finds
populations.
work for idle hands.
That's it. Yeah, I'm terrible with idioms. Exactly right.
But
I want to ask
but
you.
that's-
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's exactly it. I mean, and also if you have NGOs, and there's a lot of them, and some of them are major offenders, they just want to stuff the Western countries with any and everything they can get their hands on. So you will inevitably have criminal and kind of low-life elements wanting to escape their jurisdiction, not genuine asylum, but just criminal elements who want to get out of town, if you know what I mean. So in between the other migrants who are looking for a new life, etc., you're going to have a bad element. But remember, our politicians and the NGOs, they don't care. In fact, it seems that for the Soros kind of agenda, the more trouble, the better, because it divides society. So the more there's trouble as they ram these people into our countries, the more disruption and civil strife, the more they can justify hate laws and justify stronger police powers to stamp out on riots and protests. Do you see how it works? One hand feeds the other.
Exactly. So I want to ask you if there is some sort of Trump effect that's bleeding across the pond, because in the United States, at least, we have given ourselves license to talk about mass deportations and mass migration and how that has torn apart our society. So is there something to that effect that the Irish are saying, look, the Americans can do it. Can we do it?
Yeah, well, Natalie, it's an interesting question. A pal of mine, Eddie Hobbs, kind of an Irish celebrity who got cancelled for being honest about these matters and more, he pointed that out, that with Trump getting in, we're going to see a huge volte-face, a huge shift in the politics in Ireland. And so far, what we're seeing is a dramatic silence. And it's like the media and the politicians' wings have been clipped, because everything that happens in America rolls over to Europe. Now, in this case, I think it's going to be harder to roll over a Trump effect to Europe. And we see the Irish media screeching and whining about what Trump is doing in the USA. And obviously, they're coming out with massive misinformation about the Doge cuts, and they're coming out with propaganda against Trump. That is happening. But it's not got the strength that it used to have. And they're kind of shutting up about calling people far right and racist. So definitely the politics or the atmosphere has changed. And I think we're seeing the effect that many people were hoping for. So we're not there yet, but it's certainly helping us. And me and all of my kind of professionals in our networks, when Trump got in, we thought, whew, that is going to give us some breather in Europe. But the thing is, and this is the killer, if Europe had just gone kind of insane and was driving all these policies, you could get a quick correction. But the problem is, we got to remember they're being driven with iron in a glove from top elite organizations and NGOs, and they are going to resist the Trump effect coming to Europe in a massive way. So we're going to have a pitched battle. I'll give you a quick example, Natalie. Only last week, Gript, which is an Irish news outlet, that's the only one that honestly covers the mass migration disaster and the numbers. They're unique in that respect. They found out that last summer, the Irish police, after a mass migration incident in Newtown, Mount Kennedy, where they brought in police, it is believed, from England, who would deal rough with the locals, and they were all balaclavaed, and they rammed in a massive encampment of illegal migrants, I guess, into this village in Ireland. So a lot of the locals got together. There were grannies, granddads, young people. These are ordinary people saying, hold on, you're going to destroy our village here. And they were beaten and they were maced and they were treated dreadfully. But the interesting thing was the politicians got the police last summer to use Article 63 law in Ireland, which is for money laundering and drugs. It was a special law put in to get private information if there were these serious crimes. They used that law to go after Twitter, to get Grip's Twitter account and private messaging, and also 8 or 9 other private citizens' Twitter accounts. So now that's out, and people are publishing these orders. Now, Twitter beat them in court, luckily, but it shows you how bad it's got. If the police of Ireland will go after private information using drug and money laundering laws, right, for people who are just trying to save their village.
Oh my goodness. I had not heard of this, so it's Gript Media on X.
Gript, and I'll send you a link after to the tweets where this was all revealed last week.
That's wild. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that information. So Ivor has lots of great information on his X feed. You can follow him at Fat Emperor on X. It's always great to see you. Thank you for explaining this to us.
No bother, Natalie. Till next time. Well, there you go, guys. Mass fraud, more like, by the usual globalist players. Are we surprised? And if you want to know more about critical thinking and become a critical thinking master, look no further than my new mini workshops online. So I have 3 at the moment that I'm actively running every few weeks. I do another session of each. And the first one shown on the screen is critical thinking. So would you like to become a much more expert critical thinker, able to defend yourself much more successfully in conversations with friends and family and come across as convincing, data and logic based? Well, then this is the workshop for you. And we also do a full module within it on discussing difficult matters where friends or family may have been propagandized and have fallen for media nonsense, and how you communicate effectively. Many tools of psychology to effectively convert people, if you will, to logical critical thinking and thus improve your relationships and avoid pitfalls. So in any case, that's critical thinking. You get the 2.5 or so hours live with me and worked examples. And as for each workshop, follow up, I send out the full HD recording. You can see my big screen here. And it's HD, perfect sound, and also I send materials, worksheets, templates, and any other auxiliary materials you need. Very quickly, my other workshop is on mental strength and resilience, how to make yourself tough as nails in this challenging world. Again, it's 2.5 hours, worked examples, and 4 primary pillars of psychology. All the tools and templates that you can use to become far more strong with a far more powerful mindset in this world. And again, we'll be covering communication with other people who may have issues of this nature. So, want to get bulletproof mentally? This is the workshop for you. And finally, my third one at the moment is Weight Loss Masterclass. And that's got 4 key vectors in achieving successful weight loss: the practices, the nutrition, and importantly, the psychology. So I do a full module on the psychology of weight loss, which arguably is the most important part of successfully getting to your ideal weight, even more so than nutrition and some of the other elements. So I'm going to include, after running the last one, a new module for March 13th when this one comes up again. on hormonal effects in preventing weight loss, particularly menopausal issues for women who are caught on a weight loss plateau, but also general hormonal effects and how to overcome these kind of headwinds when you're stuck at a less than desirable weight, shall we say. So they're the 3 workshops at the moment. I'll be adding more. All of them are 2.5 hours approximately live with me, worked examples and all of the best science to make you effective in any particular area, and the HD recordings sent out afterwards with multiple materials to bring home the learning. So let's try and fix the world together. Who else is going to do it?